There's a reason why your life feels like it's on repeat, like you're trapped in a pattern, chasing change that always seems just out of reach. The job changes, the people around you come and go. The scenery may evolve, but something deeper, unchanged and familiar, keeps dragging you back to the same emotional and mental place. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Your outer world is not independent of your inner one. Every moment of your life is shaped, not by what you do, but by how you think. And more specifically, by the thoughts you keep allowing to dominate your mind. This video is not about motivation. It's not about productivity. It's about one core idea. Your thoughts are not passive. They are active quantum commands that shape what becomes real. You've likely heard phrases like, thoughts become things, or you attract what you focus on. But we're going deeper than catchy affirmations today. This is about unlocking the actual mechanism that allows thought to shift timelines. Quantum physics isn't just for scientists in labs. At its core, it's a framework for understanding that possibility is infinite, and that observation collapses possibility into reality. In other words, your focused awareness is the trigger that turns potential into form. But here's where it gets interesting. Not all thoughts have equal power. Most of the time, we operate from a cluttered mental field, full of contradictions, fears, distractions, and outdated beliefs. These thoughts are scattered, weak, full of static. They don't carry enough energetic alignment to alter anything substantial. But then, there are those rare moments where you feel something shift. It's often subtle, a quiet decision, a firm clarity, a single idea that lands with total alignment. That thought, pure, focused, emotionally charged, has the power to break loops. It sends a ripple through the field of possibility. In this video, we're going to explore how to use that power with precision. You'll understand how most people unknowingly keep their lives stuck in place. You'll learn to recognize the patterns that reinforce your current reality. And most importantly, you'll see how to interrupt those patterns with one well-aligned thought, consciously chosen and repeated with intention. We're not talking about magical thinking. We're talking about quantum alignment, how thoughts act as vectors that pull matching experiences from the field of infinite timelines into your current one. From neuroscience to the nature of reality itself, we'll connect ancient metaphysical ideas with cutting-edge understanding of consciousness. You'll learn why you don't need endless visualization, mantras, or rituals. You only need one thought, clear, resonant, and repeated, to initiate a shift. If you've ever felt like you're living in a loop you can't break, or like no matter how much you try to change, something always resets you back to zero. Stay with me, because by the end of this video you'll understand how to shift from reaction to conscious creation. From repetition to true transformation. Let's begin. There's a strange phenomenon most people never notice. Life seems to echo. You meet different people, you move to different places, but somehow the emotional atmosphere stays the same. The insecurities persist. The fears resurface. The struggles repeat themselves with unnerving precision. This isn't random. It's a reflection of subconscious mental loops, invisible scripts you're running without awareness. These scripts dictate how you perceive, react, and interpret the world around you. And unless interrupted, they keep generating the same outcomes over and over. At the root of these loops are core beliefs, mental programs installed early in life. These beliefs aren't chosen. They're absorbed. Repetition, trauma, conditioning. All of these shape the way your brain predicts and responds to reality. And that prediction becomes self-fulfilling. Here's how it works. Your brain is a predictive machine. It doesn't just react to input. It actively guesses what's about to happen based on past experiences. This is called predictive coding in neuroscience. Essentially, your brain filters incoming data through the lens of expectation. You don't just see reality, you see what you expect to see. So if your mind is wired with a belief like, people can't be trusted, your brain will ignore evidence to the contrary. It will zoom in on the one moment someone disappoints you and say, see? Proof. If your core loop says, success is for other people, your mind will filter opportunities through that lens and unconsciously sabotage any chance to succeed, because it doesn't fit the predicted pattern. This is how reality becomes a loop, You think based on your past, those thoughts influence your perception, that perception reinforces the belief, and the belief keeps the thought in motion. Round and round. Now let's zoom out. These loops are not just internal, they create the structure of your external reality. Why? Because your thoughts influence your actions, your decisions, your tone, your energy, and ultimately your outcomes. And since 95% of your decisions happen below the level of conscious thought, these loops become the architects of your future. Most people never question the loop. They assume it's the truth. They defend it. They gather proof to support it. But the loop only exists because it's been left unchallenged. So how do you break it? The first step is identification. You need to catch the loop while it's running. That requires awareness. Start by noticing repeated emotional patterns in your life. Do certain situations always trigger the same feelings? Do your relationships follow the same script? Do your goals hit the same invisible ceiling? Then trace it back. Ask yourself, what belief would have to be true for this pattern to keep happening? This is your entry point. Once the belief is identified, it must be challenged, not through positive thinking, but through pattern disruption. This is where conscious thought enters the equation. You override the loop by introducing a new, incompatible thought, one that contradicts the old belief, but feels believable enough to gain traction. It must be clear, intentional, and emotionally charged. When repeated with full presence, this new thought becomes a wedge in the loop. It interrupts the automated cycle and creates a new possibility. The power of this strategy lies in its precision. You're not trying to change your whole life at once. You're aiming at the origin point of the loop, the one thought that props it all up. Dislodge that, and the rest unravels naturally. But here's the challenge. Your brain resists change. It prefers familiarity, even painful familiarity, over the unknown. That's why awareness alone isn't enough. You must consistently choose the new thought until it gains more momentum than the old one. This is not a matter of force. It's about alignment. The more emotionally resonant the new thought is, the faster it rewires your mental loop. It's less about quantity and more about energetic clarity. So the question becomes, what thought are you allowing to dominate your inner dialogue today? Because that thought is not just describing your reality. It's choosing it. The next time you feel stuck, don't fight the circumstances. Look inward. Find the loop. Find the thought keeping it alive. Then introduce a new one, as clearly and powerfully as you can. That's how the cycle ends, and a new timeline begins. Ready for what happens when that one thought becomes a code in the quantum field. Keep watching. Thought is not just an idea floating in the mind. It's an energetic signal, structured, measurable, and impactful. Every thought you think carries a frequency, and that frequency doesn't remain locked inside your head. It radiates outward, influencing not only your body and emotions, but also the environment around you. Your mind is not a passive receiver of experience. It is a generator, and not just of beliefs or behaviors, but of vibrational output. That output interacts with a wider field, often described in quantum terms as a field of probability or pure potential. This isn't poetic language. It's physics. At the quantum level, everything that appears solid is made of energy. What we perceive as particles, atoms, molecules, and eventually material things are actually patterns of vibration collapsed from a wave of probabilities into a single state. The act of observation determines which possibility becomes reality. In simple terms, conscious awareness selects outcomes. This is the essence of the observer effect, a core principle in quantum mechanics. When something is observed, it behaves differently than when it is unobserved. Energy exists as a wave until measured, and it becomes a particle only at the moment of observation. So what happens when your thoughts are focused, intentional, and emotionally charged? You are not just observing. You are participating. You are shaping which version of reality unfolds from a field of infinite options. Now consider this. Every thought you think is an observation. A focused one becomes a directive. And the stronger your emotional state, the greater its intensity in the quantum field. Let's take that deeper. When your thought is vague, fragmented, or conflicting, it emits a weak and scattered signal. The field reflects that back. Your experience will appear random, unstable, or difficult to control. But when your thought is clear, emotionally aligned, and repeated with conviction, it carries a coherent frequency, one that the field responds to with precision. This is why clarity is more powerful than effort. You don't have to push reality into shape. You just have to signal it consistently. Let's be very specific here. Thoughts are not metaphors in this framework. They are literal code. Just like software code tells a computer how to behave, thought tells the quantum field which path to follow. When you understand this, your entire relationship with reality changes. You stop trying to manipulate the external and instead focus your energy on crafting the internal signal. This signal has three components: cognitive focus, the clear idea or mental image; emotional charge, the feeling state associated with that idea; repetition and presence, the frequency and intensity of engagement. The more these three elements align, the stronger the signal. And this is where the concept of alignment becomes technical, not just spiritual. An aligned thought is not simply a positive one. It is a coherent directive that matches your desired outcome in frequency, structure, and emotional vibration. Let's go further. Your brain and heart emit electromagnetic fields. The heart's field, in particular, is extremely powerful, thousands of times stronger than the brain's in terms of measurable magnetic output. When your thoughts and emotions are aligned, these fields synchronize. This creates a coherent signal that influences your biology and your surrounding environment. That coherence is what allows the code to run effectively. Disorder, on the other hand, when your thoughts say one thing and your feelings say another, creates noise in the system. The signal is disrupted. The results are inconsistent. This is why simply saying affirmations doesn't work unless the emotional state matches. Now let's bring this back to your life. Right now, you're already programming your reality. The only question is whether you're doing it consciously. If your dominant thoughts are anxious, doubtful, or rooted in past trauma, then you're sending a signal that reactivates those outcomes. Not because you deserve them, but because the field is neutral. It mirrors your dominant frequency. This isn't judgment. It's mechanics. The quantum field doesn't reward good thoughts or punish bad ones. It simply reflects the clearest, most consistent signal. This is why neutrality and clarity are so powerful. A thought doesn't need to be dramatic or exaggerated to shift reality. It needs to be clean, emotionally resonant, and repeated with belief. So how do you begin to use thought as code? First, stop treating your mind like a dumping ground for reactive thoughts. Every time you allow a thought to linger, you're strengthening a signal, whether it's wanted or not. Your first task is to become deliberate. Don't wait for external change to inspire new thoughts. Begin thinking as if the new timeline already exists, because it does. In the quantum model, time is not linear. All possibilities exist simultaneously. What changes is where you place your focus. You're not creating something from nothing, you're selecting from a spectrum of existing outcomes. And thought is the selection tool. Second, choose a primary thought that reflects the reality you wish to shift into. Keep it simple. Something like, I am stable, I am receiving, or this is already working. Make sure the statement creates resonance, not resistance. The thought must feel like it belongs to you, even if it stretches you. Third, engage the emotional state. Close your eyes. Bring that thought into your awareness. Feel what it would feel like if it were already true. Anchor that feeling. That emotional coherence is what makes the signal magnetic. Fourth, repeat. Not obsessively, not anxiously, but consistently. You are recoding your perception, and the field is listening. Don't be surprised if small things start to shift first. Conversation, an opportunity, a moment of peace where there used to be stress. These are signs that the code is taking effect. Stay steady. The more aligned you stay, the more momentum builds. And finally, protect your signal. This means turning down the noise, overthinking, scrolling endlessly, worrying without pause. These things scramble your broadcast. Create time each day for stillness and presence. This is where the strongest signal can be sent. You don't need to manipulate matter to shift your life. You just need to write a new thought into the field and repeat it until reality catches up. It's not magic. It's signal fidelity. Coming up next, the one thought rule that simplifies everything, and why doing less may be the most powerful shift you ever make. The world constantly pushes the idea that more is better. More effort, more action, more hustle, more techniques. But when it comes to reprogramming your reality, this mindset backfires. It creates clutter, noise, and energetic confusion. You don't need more. You need precision. The idea that a single thought, aligned, clear, and emotionally charged, can carry more transformative power than 1,000 scattered ones may seem counterintuitive. But once you understand the mechanics of the quantum field and the psychology of focus, it becomes inevitable. Your reality doesn't respond to volume. It responds to coherence. A single, focused thought, held with presence and repeated with inner certainty, can bend outcomes faster than any frantic mental activity. This is the essence of the one-thought rule. Your mind is constantly projecting signals into the energetic field. When those signals are filled with contradiction, hope mixed with doubt, desire mixed with fear, your external reality reflects the static. It delays change. It mirrors your inner dissonance. But when you narrow your focus to one consistent thought, you reduce friction. You eliminate contradiction. You give the field a clear instruction. Let's get very specific about what makes a thought qualified to become your one anchor thought. It must be emotionally truthful. It resonates with your body, not just your intellect. Outcome-oriented. It implies a state of being, not a hope for becoming. Frequency compatible. It generates calm certainty, not emotional desperation. For example, I'm becoming successful may sound positive, but it implies you're not there yet. The frequency of lack still lingers underneath. But I am already aligned with success creates a different emotional field. It short-circuits the loop of becoming and anchors you directly into the state of being. That distinction matters. The subconscious mind and the quantum field responds to what is held as already true, not what is wished for. This is why people spend years repeating affirmations with no results. They're speaking words, but their energy is signaling contradiction. You cannot trick the field. You can only match it. This brings us to the power of simplicity. Choosing one thought allows the body and nervous system to relax. It lowers mental resistance. It ends the scramble to fix or chase outcomes. Instead, you root into a chosen frequency and let the signal do its work. You don't have to control how the external world reshapes around it. That part is not your job. Your only job is to maintain alignment with the chosen thought. Here's how that works in practice. Let's say your life feels unstable. Finances, relationships, emotions, all unpredictable. The typical response is to attack each area separately. Try a budgeting app. Have a hard conversation. Meditate more. But with the one thought rule, you step back and identify the root belief, the loop that's keeping instability alive. Once that belief is clear, you choose a single thought that directly contradicts it, but still feels believable enough to embody. That becomes your internal code. You then repeat it, first thing in the morning, during quiet moments, in response to stress. Not just verbally, but energetically. You feel it. You let it reshape your posture, your tone, your inner voice. And then you watch as reality starts to organize itself around that new signal. Not because you forced anything, but because the field always reflects your dominant frequency. This is the paradox. You change reality faster by doing less. Let's look at why. The brain has limited capacity for focus. When you're juggling 10 affirmations, multiple visualizations, and constant inner doubt, none of those signals gain traction. Your energy is fragmented. The quantum field receives a blurry instruction. But when you reduce your mental noise to one core thought, your system syncs. Your biology, your emotional state, your actions all fall into alignment. You become coherent. And coherence is magnetic. This isn't about passivity. It's about trust. Holding one thought consistently requires far more presence than trying everything at once. It demands that you stop looking for evidence and start broadcasting conviction. Most people unconsciously reinforce the opposite pattern. They allow old loops to dominate their internal narrative. Even when saying something positive, they're emotionally attuned to doubt. This is why the one thought must be emotionally anchored. It must feel like home in your body. Even if it's unfamiliar, it must generate peace, not tension. If it creates resistance, it won't work, no matter how well-worded it is. So the refinement process is key. If a thought doesn't sit right, don't force it. Adjust it until the words generate the feeling of calm certainty. That feeling is the true code. Let's zoom out. You're not trying to bulldoze reality into shape. You're aligning with the version of it that already exists in potential. You're saying, "This is my signal now. I'm staying with it. I'm not waiting for proof. I am the proof." This shift from seeking to selecting changes everything. It stops desperation in its tracks. It ends the emotional yo-yo of success and failure. It returns power to the one place it always belonged, your inner frequency. So here's your invitation. Choose your one thought. Not 100. Not 5. 1. Write it down. Speak it out. Feel it daily. Let it become your inner anchor. Anytime an old loop tries to creep back in, return to your one thought. Not to fight the old, but to reinforce the new. Over time, the field responds. Small changes accumulate. Reality begins to reorganize. And the life that once felt random begins to look suspiciously intentional. Not because you did more, but because you finally focused enough to send a clean signal. Coming up next, shifting timelines is not science fiction. There are infinite versions of you already existing, each one living a slightly different version of your life. Let's explore how to consciously move from this version to the one that already has everything you've been signaling. There is not just one version of reality. There are countless versions, each one playing out a slightly different sequence of events, outcomes, and choices. These versions aren't fantasy. They're fully formed, energetically real, and accessible. You are not fixed to one identity or one timeline. You are tethered to the version you continue to reinforce through your thoughts, your beliefs, and your frequency. Let's be clear. Timeline hopping is not about teleporting or physically vanishing into another world. It's about shifting alignment to a different stream of outcomes. It's about choosing the version of you that already exists in another layer of potential and becoming mentally, emotionally, and energetically compatible with it. When you understand this, your life stops feeling random. The people you meet, the synchronicities you notice, the opportunities that show up, they're all timeline indicators. You're tuning into a different path, like changing the station on a radio. The song was always playing. You just weren't tuned into it. Here's how this works. Every possible version of your life is already encoded in the quantum field. There's a version of you that stayed in a relationship you left. Another version that never pursued a dream. Another that's wildly successful, peaceful, aligned. These are not fantasies or thought experiments. They are active, energetic timelines that can be accessed by changing your internal signal. Think of yourself as a tuner. Your beliefs, your emotions, your identity. These make up your dial. If you want to experience the reality of a different version of you, you don't need to chase it. You simply need to tune yourself to its frequency. Let's go further. When you identify with your past, your patterns, your traumas, your failures, you anchor into the timeline that keeps repeating those experiences. You're not doing this intentionally. It happens automatically because that identity feels familiar. But familiarity is not the same as truth. Familiarity is the result of repetition. And repetition can be rewritten. To shift to a new timeline, you must first choose a new identity. One that already exists in a version of reality where your desired outcomes are normal. Not impressive. Not miraculous. Just normal. That version of you is not waiting. It's active. And it becomes available the moment you stop reinforcing the story of who you think you are and start embodying the version of you who thinks, speaks, and acts in alignment with the new timeline. Here's the first tool: mental rehearsal. This isn't just visualization. It's immersive rehearsal of a new identity. You don't imagine the future as something you'll reach. You mentally occupy it as if it's already real. You close your eyes. You place yourself in a moment that feels aligned with the timeline you want to shift into. You don't just see it, you feel it. The emotions, the posture, the tone of voice, the level of certainty. You rehearse it not to make it come true, but to match your frequency to it. Neuroscience shows that the brain doesn't distinguish between real and vividly imagined experience. When you rehearse the future as a lived present, you change the wiring of your brain, the signals from your nervous system, and your energetic output. You begin broadcasting from the new timeline. Second tool, identity shifting. You don't attract what you want. You attract what you believe you are. So the shift begins at the level of identity. Who do you believe yourself to be? Every action you take is filtered through the lens of identity. If you believe you're someone who always sabotages success, you'll unconsciously distort even the best opportunities to prove yourself right. Shifting timelines means shifting identity at the root. Choose a single identity statement that matches the timeline you want. Something like, I am stable. I am chosen. I am magnetic to aligned opportunities. I trust myself completely. This isn't wishful thinking. It's identity conditioning. Repeat this statement not as a future goal, but as a current truth. Speak it. Write it. Let it guide your choices. Let it shape the way you move. Over time, your environment begins to match the identity you've claimed. Third tool, quantum anchoring. Anchoring is the act of connecting your new timeline identity to physical cues in your daily life. This gives the shift momentum. Create anchors, objects, places, rituals that reinforce the new identity. For example, a bracelet you touch every time you choose the new thought. A mirror mantra that affirms your new timeline every morning. A walk that you associate with embodying the higher version of yourself. The goal is to reinforce the shift at a sensory level. Anchor the new frequency into your nervous system until it becomes second nature. So how do you know the shift is working? You'll notice subtle changes first. Different thoughts arise. Old triggers lose their edge. People respond to you differently. New doors open that weren't even visible before. You may feel a strange disconnection from the old you, as if you're remembering someone else's story. That's normal. You are. This is a timeline shift. It's not loud or flashy. It's precise. You become a new match for a new stream of events. Life organizes differently around your presence. But you must remain committed. The biggest threat to timeline shifting is reattachment to old patterns. That happens when you start checking if the shift is working. That checking is subtle doubt, and doubt pulls you back. The moment you ask, is it working? You've already stepped out of the new identity. So stop checking. Start living. Respond to reality from the version of you that already has what you desire. Act as if the outcome is boringly normal. Not a miracle, not a fantasy, just another Tuesday on that timeline. The quantum field rewards conviction, not desperation. To summarize, every version of you already exists. You don't create the new timeline. You choose it. You choose it through thought, emotion, identity, and consistency. The more you reinforce that version, the more your environment reflects it. Stop proving your old story. Start embodying the new one. There is nothing to chase. There is only alignment to maintain. Coming up next, how to consolidate the shift with a daily 5-minute ritual that recodes your reality in real time, and why consistency, not complexity, is the secret to sustaining your new timeline. Every transformation begins with repetition. But not just any repetition, intentional repetition in a heightened emotional state. That's where real neural and energetic rewiring happens. That's where timelines lock in. You don't need a 30-day boot camp or a life overhaul to shift realities. You need 5 uninterrupted minutes a day. Not random minutes. 5 structured minutes where you consciously code your internal state to match your chosen outcome. This is the mind recode ritual. Let's break down exactly what this is and why it works. At any given moment, your mind is running a series of unconscious programs. These programs shape how you see yourself, what you expect from others, what you tolerate, and what you believe is possible. They're deeply embedded, but they're not permanent. Neuroscience confirms that the brain is plastic. It changes in response to repetition and emotion. The more often you fire a new neural pathway, especially while in a focused state, the faster that pathway becomes the new default. But here's where most people fail. They try to change too much at once without consistency or clarity. Their rituals are scattered. Their emotional engagement is weak. The signal they send to the quantum field is muddy. The mind recode ritual eliminates that. It is a precise, 5-step daily process designed to interrupt your old subconscious loop, embed a new identity through repetition and feeling, send a clean energetic signal into the quantum field. Let's walk through each step in order. Step 1. Intention lock. You begin by locking in your chosen identity statement. This is not a goal. It's a current state of being. Something like, I am clear and powerful. I am already living in alignment. My reality supports me effortlessly. This statement becomes the anchor for your session. Say it out loud. Say it internally. Repeat it until your mind and body start to feel it, even faintly. This is the command that begins the energetic broadcast. Step 2. Breath alignment. Now shift into coherence. Take slow, deep breaths. Inhale for 4 counts, hold for 4, exhale for 6. Do this 3 or 4 times. The goal here is to calm the nervous system. You cannot reprogram your mind when you're in fight or flight. This breathing pattern moves you into a parasympathetic state, where new instructions are most effectively received. As you breathe, continue to silently repeat your intention. This synchronizes the thought with your physical state. Step 3. Visual anchor. Now close your eyes and bring up a mental image that represents the new timeline. Not a vague hope, but a specific scene where you are living the new identity. See the environment. Notice the details. Who's around you? What do you hear? What do you feel? But here's the key: focus more on the emotional texture than the visual detail. Feel the calm, the clarity, the ease. Let the emotional imprint of that timeline flood your body. This is what codes the signal. Your brain begins to treat that imagined moment as real. Your body responds. Your energetic output changes. Step 4. Emotional amplification. Now you elevate the emotion. You move from just feeling it to amplifying it. This is not forced hype. It's a gentle expansion. Ask yourself, what does it feel like to be safe in this version of myself? What does stability feel like in my chest? How does certainty vibrate in my spine? Let the emotion rise naturally. If you feel it even a little, amplify that. Emotions are the language of the body. When you feel the elevated emotion of your new identity, you encode it into your nervous system. This is how the subconscious accepts the new command. Step 5. Return and reflect. Open your eyes slowly, but don't rush back into your day. Sit in the residue of that frequency for a few moments. Then take a moment to reflect in writing. Answer this: what one action today would match the identity I just stepped into? This final step grounds the ritual into practical reality. You're not just feeling a new version of yourself, you're giving it motion. The action doesn't need to be dramatic. It only needs to match the frequency. When done daily, this 5-minute ritual begins to overwrite old loops at the root. Now, here's why this works so efficiently. Each part of the ritual targets a different mechanism. Intention engages the conscious mind. Breath resets the nervous system. Visualization speaks to the subconscious. Emotion codes the signal into the body. Reflection connects the shift to behavior. You're working at all levels: mental, emotional, physical, energetic. You don't need more time. You need clear, repeated access to the right state. This is how the mind reprograms. This is how timelines shift. But here's the catch. You can't skip days and expect acceleration. You must treat this 5 minutes as sacred. The same way you brush your teeth or charge your phone. Non-negotiable. You are not waiting for change to arrive. You are generating it daily with a structured signal. And if you ever doubt that it's working, go back to the ritual. Anchor again. Feel it again. Speak the identity again. You're not just practicing a habit. You're transmitting a new version of self, consistently enough for the world to respond. Some days the ritual will feel powerful. Other days it may feel hollow. Do it anyway. Repetition is what embeds the new code, not your momentary excitement. Over time, your subconscious starts to accept this version of you as real. Your energy shifts, and life shifts with it. This is not positive thinking. It's structural alignment. There's a version of you who already lives with clarity, flow, and purpose. That version doesn't need to be found. It needs to be activated one clear signal at a time. This ritual is how you do that. Coming up, the closing message that brings it all together. One final reminder that the mind has always been the portal, and it's time you walk through it with full awareness. You've just been handed the code, not a metaphorical key, a literal process grounded in science, reinforced by energetic law, and confirmed through direct experience by those who've used it. But here's what matters now. Will you use it? Because the truth is simple. Reality does not shift until you do. You can listen, learn, even feel inspired, but unless you act from the new identity, the signal never leaves your head. It remains dormant potential, unused power, a silent frequency that never gets broadcast. The real question isn't whether this works. It's whether you're finally ready to take responsibility for the signal you're sending. Right now, your mind is functioning as a gateway. Everything you experience, success, struggle, love, conflict, clarity, confusion, it all starts with a single repeated thought. That thought becomes a belief. That belief becomes a lens. That lens colors every interaction, every opportunity, every self-assessment. The world reflects it back, not to punish or reward you, but because the field mirrors your dominant frequency. So ask yourself, what thought are you most loyal to? Is it a thought of power, of stability, of self-trust? Or is it a thought of lack, of limitation, of doubt? This moment is your chance to consciously install a new one. You don't need to wait for a breakthrough, a course, a permission slip. All you need is a clean, emotionally charged, energetically coherent thought. And the willingness to repeat it until it becomes who you are. Let's step back and put it all into perspective. You've learned that your reality is not fixed. It's generated in real time by subconscious loops. Those loops are maintained through old beliefs that were likely installed without your permission. But they can be interrupted and replaced. You now understand how every thought is a line of quantum code, broadcasted into a field that reflects your signal with complete neutrality. No judgment, no delay, just frequency matching frequency. You've seen how one aligned thought, when chosen with clarity, emotion, and repetition, can shift timelines faster than any external effort. Because the field doesn't respond to force. It responds to coherence. And you've been given the process to do it. Interrupt the loop. Choose the signal. Anchor it daily. Live from the version of you who already holds the outcome. That version isn't fictional. It exists now, not someday, now. So what's next? The mind wants more information, more methods, more safety through planning. But the field doesn't require any of that. It's already waiting for one thing, your next dominant thought. Not your next 5-year plan. Not your next perfect affirmation. Just your next sustained frequency. And that frequency is entirely within your control. You can sit here and let your past experiences dictate it, or you can choose to rewire the system with full awareness of how the mechanism works. Your thoughts are not small. They are structural. They do not float, they anchor. They do not fade, they repeat. And they do not operate in a vacuum. They create. So here's what you do now. Choose your one thought. Write it down. Commit to it. Make it real. Breathe into it. Feel it. Let it become a physical presence in your body. Say it until your nervous system accepts it as truth. And when resistance arises, as it will, do not negotiate with it. Return to your thought. Your job is not to eliminate all old patterns in one day. Your job is to weaken their signal by strengthening a new one. That's what reprogramming looks like. Not a dramatic epiphany. A quiet, steady broadcast. Day after day. Thought after thought. Until the field responds not by chance but by design. And when you begin to see shifts, when small coincidences emerge, when your posture feels different, when your conversations take new shape, recognize them. Don't ignore the signs of alignment. Those signals are proof that your inner broadcast is working. That's when momentum builds. That's when the timeline holds. That's when the shift stabilizes. And the old version of you, the one who had to fight for progress, fades into the background. Not because you fought it, but because you replaced it. Now let's be real. This isn't a one-time experience. This is an operating system you commit to. You'll still have doubts. The world around you will still reflect old patterns for a while. But your consistency will override them. Your frequency will begin to outshine the noise. And eventually, the world will mirror back a new signal, clear, coherent, undeniable. That's when you know the code has landed. You don't need to figure out every step ahead. Just one thought. The one that aligns you with the timeline where everything you desire is already happening. And once you choose it, really choose it, the game changes. From reaction to design. From repetition to revelation. From the familiar loop to the unknown breakthrough. All by choosing one thought, again and again, until it becomes who you are. Your mind has never been the obstacle. It's always been the portal. Are you ready to step through? Because everything is waiting, and it's already listening.